Welcome to this Quantum Security and Defense presentation, Practical Cryptographic Inventory and Quantum Readiness Strategy, and thank you for being a valued member of our community. Marin Ivezic is the founder of Applied Quantum, a consulting firm dedicated to helping organizations prepare for the opportunities and threats of quantum technology. Former quantum entrepreneur, he previously led cybersecurity and quantum technology practices at a Big Four firms as well as at IBM and Accenture. And he also served as a CISO and CTO at Fortune Global 500 companies. With over 3 decades of relevant experience and over a decade of experience working on quantum readiness initiatives with governments and critical infrastructure organizations, Marin specializes in bridging the gap between cutting-edge innovations and practical cybersecurity strategy.
Okay, so let's get started. We want to talk a little bit about the cryptographic discovery and inventory and quantum readiness and strategy. But I want to give you a context. The first thing is to clarify the terminology, because at the moment, this whole area around preparing for the quantum threat is quite new. So people use all kinds of terminology, quantum security and quantum resistance and quantum resilience and PQC and so on. So in a simplified way, what I'm going to talk about today is quantum readiness as the overall program that an enterprise or a public sector organization is taking on to prepare for the quantum threat. That means doing everything from the crypto agility to vendor management to education, upskilling of their cybersecurity teams, and so on and on. So the whole program, I package it under the title Quantum Readiness. And then within that, today we will try to focus a little bit on these 2 parts, on the cryptographic discovery and inventory and the quantum readiness and strategy. And, hopefully we'll have other sessions for the rest, or we'll create an education content or something. So the first question that I always hear from everybody is, okay, do we really have to do it? I mean, can we just skip it or navigate it or do something in between? So I want to give you a little bit of the picture of what's happening in the market. And this is how I'm summarizing it recently. You don't really have choice of not doing it anymore, because right now this whole quantum readiness is becoming a regulatory and a business requirement. So even up until a few weeks ago or a few months ago, we kept discussing never-ending discussions about the Q-day predictions and when is, CRQC, cryptographically relevant quantum computers, when are they going to arrive, and do we need to prepare for the next year or for the 2060, or what is the target for when we will be at an actual risk. So many things have happened, even over the last few weeks or the last few months, let's say since May, that that discussion is now irrelevant. Regulators from the US executive order and law, 2-3 years ago, to the ones issued by EU, the roadmap, quantum readiness roadmaps that were issued by EU and Canada in May this year, they have all created a deadline for us for quantum readiness. They defined between 2030 and 2035, depending on a regulator or a national cybersecurity agency. They defined that period as the deadline for when organizations, at least critical infrastructure or the government or broader market, when should they be ready for the quantum threat. That's not the only pressure point. There is insurers. We talk to insurers that are carving out quantum incidents, preparing how to evaluate quantum readiness of the organizations. The Quantum readiness, third-party risk management is a big topic. I think every big organization, every big enterprise is now trying or looking or have a project on how to add quantum readiness requirements in their vendor selection and RFPs and so on. We see that on the earning calls, investors and analysts started asking CEOs whether, they are quantum ready or what are they doing for the quantum readiness. So all of these different pressure points now are making it very clear that, we don't really have a choice whether Q-Day comes in, 50 years or in 5 years or sooner, if we believe latest IBM news from Anna. It doesn't really matter because it is now a compliance and business project. It's not anymore related to the underlying science. So the first message for the team today is in the last few weeks, last few months, things have changed. We don't have a choice. We have to do it. But it's not an easy thing to do. I'll dig a little bit deeper into the cryptographic inventory, but overall, the quantum readiness is probably one of the most complex and largest IT and OT projects that most of the enterprises will undertake. So it's not just patching an external or an open SSL. It is an enterprise-wide discovery and mitigation of literally every cryptography. And I want to illustrate that because this crypto everywhere statement usually, unless you are in the cryptography, deep cybersecurity techie, you do not realize how cryptography is pervasive. It's a substrate underneath all of the IT and OT. It's not a particular function. So if you look at, just a single mobile phone in your pocket, these are some of the cryptographic primitives and suites that are implemented just in a single phone. And it keeps going on and on. This is a subset, that I managed to dig out. We did 2 years ago or so for the interbank payment system, and this is a summary of just the key cryptographic primitives and cryptographic suites and libraries that are in use when you make a bank-to-bank payment. So a single payment touches thousands of cryptographic assets when you include the underlying trust infrastructure or basically everything that is on the servers and the OS and the firmware and so on. But even the actual transaction flow includes hundreds of different cryptographic primitives. So keep this in mind because this is a challenge for our topic today, which is the cryptographic discovery. But overall, when you think about the quantum readiness program, this is a massive problem because you now need not only to find out and discover and categorize and manage all of this cryptography, you will likely need to mitigate all of that in some shape or form. And there's much more than that in discovering and mitigating the cryptography. It is deeply embedded. The data at rest that is encrypted in the databases, it's not easy to query. There is no single or a simple way to query how the databases have encrypted the data. There is no universal protocol that allows us an easy integration and the communication between the different cryptographic uses. It is opaque when you talk about the black box systems, the vendor control systems, the microservices. It is dynamic in all of the containers and virtual machines that get spun up and spun down. It is decentralized. It's owned by the different groups in any enterprise. So there is so many different things that make this one of the toughest and most complex projects in IT. And that's basically my second message before we start digging into the cryptographic inventory.
You can join the CUSEC Dev community to watch the full version of this and over 80 other lectures on quantum technologies, attend events, receive free training, and more. CUSEC Dev is a users community working to forward quantum secure communications. The community is represented by Quantum Security and Defense that provides supply chain orchestration and consulting services on behalf of our members. Find out more. Google quantumsecuritydefense.com today.